Hello everyone, welcome back to day 2 of Aviation Festival Asia 2017. I hope you enjoyed day 1 and had a good night yesterday. The event has been around for the past 13 years, and for me personally, seeing how it grew over the past 3 years is really a special feeling. And I said this last year, and I must say it again and again that you are the reason why my team and we work hard every single day, and without your support, we won't be here today. Our ambition is to move the industry forward, and that's why we curate the most comprehensive agenda covering multiple disciplines within the airline industry. So I hope you enjoy the content, share your insights, and speak up on what works, what doesn't, and why. Because I believe that everything starts with ideas and actions, so let it happen today at this event. And without much further ado, let me introduce to you our host of this morning's keynote session. He is Conrad Clifford, the Regional Vice President for IATA in charge of Asia Pac, one of the most knowledgeable and well-respected airline leaders I've ever known. Please welcome Conrad.
Well, thanks very much, Fu. That was a really nice introduction. And good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here again this year for the Future Travel Experience Day 2. And of course, today, what is most exciting for me is the Low Cost Airline Congress, part of the sort of low-cost track. I'm going to talk a little bit about the industry in general, and then we've got 4 key leaders from low-cost carriers coming up onto the stage for one-on-ones. And then after that, we're going to have a panel to talk about where the industry is going for the future coming years. So really at the moment, the sort of headline for the aviation industry is that we're in a period of great uncertainty, greater uncertainty than really ever before. And many of the factors that affect our industry are beyond the capability of individual airlines to do very much about, except to react and adapt and adjust as quickly and as much as possible. And I'm thinking here about the big ones: war, terrorism, epidemics, political upheavals. And I can give examples in all of those areas that have affected all of us in this room, but it's been difficult for any individual airline to do much about that. So there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment, and for example, we're still waiting to see what the long-term impact of the Trump administration will bring. Behind the headlines, however, there are the more familiar problems, and maybe we should call them the F words: fuel prices, foreign exchange. And in Asia Pacific, we're looking at significant benefits from lower fuel prices, but then we're losing those benefits because our Asian currencies have depreciated against the US dollar. And all of us know that when you price aircraft in US dollars, you price maintenance in US dollars, you buy engines in US dollars, you start to see that the foreign exchange issue really is an F word, a very dirty word. But having said all of that, we're not downbeat at all, we're not pessimistic, and actually we're cautiously optimistic. So why is that? Well, this is an industry that has only seen 3 years of profit in the last 50 years, an industry that has only delivered a return greater than the weighted average cost of capital in 3 years out of 50 years, that only delivered a return on equity to investors, a real return, in 3 of the last 50 years. And I'm talking about the industry as a whole here, not the individual bright stars who, some of them have bucked the trend consistently over the last decade or so. And 3 in 50, it doesn't really sound like a winner. So why are we so optimistic? And the reason is that the 3 years of collective industry profit, better than cost of capital returns, real returns to our investors and stakeholders, those 3 years are the most recent years, actually 2015, 2016, and estimated for 2017. Today is looking good. Tomorrow is still looking very positive, even with the recent uptick in fuel prices. And I'd like to use the North American market as a paradigm for flying globally. So please, ladies and gentlemen, indulge me on this one. For the history buffs, you could say that air travel as we know it all began with Pan Am in the 1960s, the golden age of aviation. And I like to call it the first golden age of aviation. It was expensive, it was glamorous, it was sexy, something like the IT companies like Apple, Facebook, Google today. Everybody wanted to be a part of this industry. And then along came deregulation in 1978, and we saw the beginning of a 40-year period of losses, stagnation, a period in which air travel in the USA became a byword for unpleasantness, in which fleets aged along with air hosts and air hostesses. And out of these ashes came a new airline model, the low-cost carrier, or what we call the LCC, typified by Southwest Airlines flying out of Love Field. Southwest's naughty Irish half-brother, Ryanair, took LCC to a new level of leanness and meanness, and then had to adjust to competition from EasyJet in Europe. But in North America, some of the old legacy carriers disappeared, others consolidated, restructured, and emerged leaner and fitter. And in North America, a new golden age has dawned. Prices are lower than ever. Efficiency is higher than ever. Refleeted, reconsolidated, restructured. And convergence. New airline models have emerged, incorporating the strengths and removing the weaknesses of both the full-service carrier, or FSC model, and the low-cost carrier model. The market has recognized this turnaround. North American airlines are becoming investment-grade vehicles. This is absolutely unprecedented, and that's why I'm calling it a second golden age. The top 4 net profits globally in 2015 were all North American. American Airlines, a profit of $6 billion US, United, $4 billion, Delta, $4 billion, Southwest, $2 billion. These 4 North American carriers accounted for 45% of the total global industry profit in 2015. And 2016 is reckoned to have been an even better year. And 2017 is still going to be very good and deliver real returns to shareholders. Now, we can all be cynical and say, you know what? It's only down to low oil prices, low fuel prices. If you put the fuel price back to 2014 levels, $100 plus per barrel, what happens then? And of course, if it does go back to that level, it's a big problem. But I'd like to say that it's not just about fuel prices that's driving this level of profitability. Let's give you a few examples. If you look at Qantas, and this is a carrier here in Asia Pacific in Australia, the share price today, 50% above where it was in 2014. Net profit rose from a loss of 6.6 billion Aussie dollars in 2014 to a profit of 1.6 billion Aussie dollars in 2016. That's the year end to June. That's a 1.6 billion US dollar turnaround. And when you look at the Qantas annual report, they cite a number of factors. The transformation program, as they call it, in the main airline. Record earnings in the cargo subsidiary. Record earnings in the low-cost Pan-Asian subsidiary Jetstar. And 8 years of record year-on-year earnings in the loyalty program. Not many people know that more than half of all card transactions in Australia are on the Qantas credit card. Alan Joyce, the CEO of Qantas and the architect of the transformation program, is probably the first to agree that low fuel prices have been a huge help, but it's not just about that. And yesterday, in the morning session, we heard Mauro Oretti from SkyTeam, and he spoke about what he called the magic 3 C's. The first C was capacity discipline, the second C, consolidation, and the third C, charging for everything, or ancillaries. And he basically said that's what's driving the turnaround in the North American market that we see here. I used to work for Virgin Atlantic Airways in the 90s, and we had code shares at different times with Delta, with Continental. We set up a US Virgin America. If you had said to me 10 years ago that we at Virgin Atlantic would end up with Delta as a major shareholder, and that would be one of the most profitable airlines in the world, I would have thought you mad. But then again, if you told me a year ago that Donald Trump would be the 45th president of the United States, I would have said, you're mad. But just look at the situation today. I scratch my head and I ask myself, for those US carriers, they're not only surviving, they are super thriving. What lessons can we learn? What does it foretell for our collective future and for the industry? We're also seeing increasing numbers of low-cost carriers. Just see if I can get this one. Here we go. Low-cost carriers joining IATA. And what we can see that is in this model, in margin terms, they deliver a much higher margin than the norm amongst the full-service carriers. And here we can see the fantastic margins that are actually being achieved by LCCs across the world. Ryanair up there at 41%. People like American and Delta are down around the 19 and 20% mark. That's still phenomenal, but it still pales in comparison to this. So here we are today in Singapore, and we are optimistic. So why are we optimistic here in Singapore? Wouldn't we rather be in North America? And the reason is demographics. North America may be the largest aviation market in the world today, but more than half of mankind is within a 5.5-hour flight time from this room. And that's the profitable payload range on the latest generation of Boeings and Airbuses, the narrow bodies. So we're all within striking distance of the biggest market in the world. And China will be the single largest market in the world in less than 20 years. India will be number 3. Indonesia, number 5. Japan, number 7. Right now, India has the fastest growing domestic market on the planet, and we'll be talking to one of the beneficiaries of that later on. So everybody, let's give ourselves a little bit of a pat on our backs and smile at one another. In 15 years or so, we will all be globally preeminent. But you're all looking a bit uneasy, and I don't need to tell you why. We all know that there will be winners, and there will definitely, unfortunately, be losers. From the golden age of aviation, Pan Am, it doesn't actually exist anymore. ValueJet, an early Pathfinder LCC in America, it disappeared after a fatal crash in the Everglades. Continental got taken over by United. Virgin America is now being merged with Alaska Airlines. We all, you all, we knew this already. It's not just about turning up. It's about adapting, adjusting, evolving to be part of what I want to call the coming third golden age of aviation, where Asia-Pacific carriers lead the world. And right now, the future looks to be LCCs in this part of the world. The region with the biggest LCC penetration on the planet is Southeast Asia. It's the LCCs that caught the airport developers and airport planners totally by surprise. And China looks very low on this domestic graph, but that's changing very quickly. as the second-tier Chinese carriers come into the global market. My guess is that we're all going to be part of the future success, but it will only happen if we develop and evolve the airline models that capture the best of FSC and LCC. We eliminate those parts of those models that don't suit our Asia-Pacific markets, and we keep on changing and growing. In 15 years' time, all of the world's most profitable airlines will be based in the Asia-Pacific region. And if you think, well, Conrad, that's just ridiculous, I only have one comment for you. Think Donald Trump. So that was my opening preamble, and we have a terrific lineup this morning. We've got airlines from India, from South Korea, from Japan, from Vietnam. I'm going to interview them individually on your behalf so that we can understand a bit more about them, and then we're going to have a discussion about the industry, about where they think the industry is headed and what the challenges and opportunities are. And I'll be inviting questions when we get to the sort of general discussion later on, so please start thinking about questions you'd like to ask these guys. LCCs are the major game changers in the region right now. There are a lot of new kids on the block, and the block has some successes and some question marks. Very clearly, in the domestic market, Chinese carriers of all type are doing very well, both traditional and new model. And I spoke about Qantas as a traditional carrier that has scored some astonishing success with both its restructuring of the mothership and also its spawning of the Jetstar stable at LCCs. And we've got one of the Jetstar guys coming up on the stage later. Indigo, AirAsia, and the Lion Group, they all have absolutely huge order books. We're living during one of the most exciting transformations of an industry in undoubtedly the most exciting part of the world. I'd like to introduce now SpiceJet. SpiceJet is the fourth largest airline in India. It's headquartered in Delhi. It has a 12% market share. It's got the most amazing history, and the single person most connected with SpiceJet, and the man who started it in 2005, left in 2010, and then returned to bring the airline back to life after it was grounded and almost went bankrupt in December 2014, is Mr. Ajay Singh. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ajay Singh, Chairman and Managing Director of SpiceJet, up onto the stage. Thank you.